This has been a group effort to get done. I wanted to make this block at the 6.5 inch that Dawn at My Quilt Projects did, but the block was not going to happen for me at 6.5 inch. At 6.5 inch, I could not do this under my sewing machine. So I ended up, maybe you can see that, putting it all on interfacing and ironing it down. I will go back and do the sewing on it, but I really wanted to accomplish this block because it was a challenge. So what I did instead is I changed the measurements that I had in my scan and cut so that these 1 inch squares became 2 inch squares. And doing that, it was something that I was able to manipulate with my hands to be able to sew on my domestic sewing machine. You sewing one of them, and I do want you to know that I have starched the daylights out of this. So what I do is I'm making sure that everything is lined up, and I'm going to sew a scant 1/4 inch seam. I am trying to keep my hands out of your way, sorry. Line it up, and when you pick it up, remember which side you're supposed to sew this on. So it's supposed to be on this side, so I'm going to put it under there. Leaders and enders would help tremendously with this, and you're not going to be able to do much chain piecing in these blocks. I'm trimming off my little threads. Still looking for my surgical scissors. And then whenever I press, and I'm just finger pressing because I've got so much starch in here, I'm putting it over towards the darker color so that my seams won't show. And then I'm paying attention to what I have already up there. So there's my 2 pieces. Now it needs to go together right here along that edge. And you're going to end up with a little bit overlapping or outside the edge. Put it together, put it back in there, make sure you've got your seam allowance. And there will be, right after this, an up-close version. And I'm doing dog ears as I go with the little scissors. Arthur's not loving it, but tough noogies on Arthur. Okay, so pressed it open again so that the seams are going towards the darker color. Right there, it's a little flunky. Alright, and then I've got one more white that I need to put on here. I need to put it at this end. Again, I'm lining up the edge, making sure that everything's exactly where I want, putting it under there and sewing it. Scant 1/4 inch, and actually my seam allowance may actually be 1/8 of an inch, because I'm using the inside edge of my presser foot as my guide. Presser foot, not pressure. Okay, and now that I have that sewn, I'm going to put it back down on my ironing board, and I'm going to go to the next row. Again, picking up the 2 pieces, lining them up as close as possible, and I'm going to sew along this edge, same scant 1/4 inch. Now when I did the first block of this, or tried to do the first block of this, my sewing machine would not do that 1 inch triangle. I couldn't get a seam in it, it just wasn't wide enough, and my fingers didn't want to lift it either. Alright, so now that I've got that first one sewn, I'm going to bring the next white piece over here, and I'm going to line it up with the edge of the orange, put it back under my foot, line it up for the same width of seam, trim my threads, and I'm trying to trim all my threads as I go. And then we're going to once again finger press to the darker side. And you can't really pull, you kind of just got to press it down with your fingers. And then here's my last white little piece. I'm going to line it up with that orange, and I'm making sure that my points are basically in the same place at the other end. Set it down here. And nobody's perfect, but I tried. I think that one's pretty good. Okay, so now that I've got those 2 parts together, now I want to take this one and put it together. And what I'm trying to do here is line up the point of this orange with the point of the white. And imagine trying to do this with half the size, because all of these little triangles in the original block are 1 inch each. I'm going to cut off my threads and my dog ears while I'm here, because that bulk just makes it harder. And then when I watched Dawn, she did all of her pressing towards the top, and I'm doing it that way, but that's why I'm trying to get these dog ears here, because I want to get as much bulk out of that center seam as possible, and then press towards the top. Now that's it done just on the machine, and you can see I'm off a little bit there. I am not taking that apart to resew it, and even from where you're at, it's probably hard to see that. Once it's in the block, I don't think you'll notice it. So I will bring you back in a couple of minutes when I have all of my triangles sewn and pressed, and then we'll start putting the block together. Okay, so here we are. This is the 12.5 inch block. And I have finally got all of the little triangles sewn. That took the longest of everything. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to start putting the pieces together. And I'm going to start right here. And I'm going to put together this triangle with this side piece. Still using the same width of seam, and where I'm sewing is this is going to be my seam line, right, or my edge of my piece. Give you a little. Huh? Okay, so there's what it looks like after it has been sewn. I'm going to take my little scissors, because I do have some threads here. I'm going to starch the heck out of this. And then I'm going to iron it. And then after I iron it, then I'm going to square it up. And the reason I'm putting a ton of starch on here is I want everything to lay flat when I'm done here. And then I want to see what size block we got. These little bitty ones, I even held them in place with tweezers and with my scissors. And I ended up with the most gimpy looking blocks you've ever seen. So let's iron this bigger block, see what we get. And I'm starting from the center and going out, because I want it all to lay as flat as I can get it to lay. And I give this advice a lot. Starch it, iron the heck out of it, and then look at it and see what it looks like for you. Because a lot of times, what you think is a wonky block actually comes out looking pretty good once it's been pressed. And I did iron starch onto all of my fabric before I cut, before I sewed my little triangles together, and before I got done here. But I personally think that putting a lot of starch on here and ironing this removed a whole lot of errors. We'll leave my little funky looking one over there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off of my ironing mat. I'm going to lean up against my leg there because I'm going to need it again in just a second. And I'm going to square up my sides. And let's see. Guess I have to start with making one side square no matter what. Slide it over here a little bit so you guys can see it. What I've done is I've got the 21 or 20 inch mark here. I'm trying to make it pretty straight while still keeping all of my little triangles. Okay, and then I'm going to use that mostly straight edge to straighten up the next two sides. And my block is just under 12 inches. And Dawn's EQ8 program that she has reworked the 6.5 inch pattern down for me to a 12.5 inch pattern. And apparently, well, maybe I do have 12.5, at least one direction. Apparently, me doubling the size of my pattern in my scan and cut gave me a very similar size. My hands are not happy with me right now. Okay, so I've got everybody lined up. 10, 12, closer to 12.25 instead of 12.5. But still, very close. And I'm not putting this block in a quilt. It will probably end up in a tote bag. So, let's see. Did I win the challenge? I'm going to give myself a B. I'd give myself an F on that, but I'll give myself a B here. I'm not quite to the 12.5 by 12.5 block that I wanted, and I still lost points and got some wonky triangles, but I'm pretty much happy with how that came out. What do you guys think? If you like this, please give me a like, a thumbs up, you know, and if you want to see more videos from me, sometimes I challenge myself, sometimes I don't. Please give me a subscribe, check out my channel, see what you think. Maybe you'll find something else interesting for you to look at. Thank you for watching. Y'all have a great day. And again, I have to say thank you to Dawn at My Quilt Projects for allowing me to play with her quilt pattern that she came out with, and for providing me with technical assistance when I decided that I couldn't do the little one and needed help to do the bigger one.